Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. I can't believe we're here. I cannot believe this is happening. It's all but official. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm lost for words. 2 races. 2. You're dropping Liam Lawson after 2 Grand Prix. It's not official, hence why in the title, in the thumbnail, should I say, it says it's almost official. But everyone is talking about it. It's been reported by all of the big publications. The story was initially, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, dropped by Eric Van Haren, who is very close to the Red Bull Dutch camp, works for De Telegraaf, and it was the first kind of source that I saw, the closest source to share this information. It's madness. It's I can't believe it. I cannot believe where we are. I cannot believe that again, for my entire YouTube career, we're talking about this second Red Bull seat and they've still not fixed conversation. And this is still, I'm aghast. Okay, I'm aghast, and we're lagging, which is great as well. The stream is also lagging live, which is just typical. Like what else? What else could possibly go? Like okay. So, as you might have seen, my most recent video, which I put out literally Monday, was talking about why it makes no sense to drop Liam Lawson after 2 Grand Prix, and it still doesn't make any sense to drop Liam Lawson after 2 Grand Prix. I've got to say, and look, we've got an article here from the race that I want to briefly show you lot. Make the white background white so it all kind of blends. Honda's role as Red Bull prepares to replace Lawson with Tsunoda. Honda do have, clearly, that is part of it, and I think, you know, for if the Japanese Grand Prix was round 4, I think Liam would have got round 3. I think that's obviously played a factor here. But there's an interesting bit I want to go down to. This is just the races article about it. If I search Dubai, here we go. So this talks, De Telegraaf, which has close ties with the Verstappen camp and has always been a reliable source of Red Bull news, now reports that Lawson's exit has been agreed after a meeting between senior Red Bull figures in Dubai, where Time majority shareholder Charlie Muvigia lives. Now, I don't know about you, right? I don't know about you, but even by Red Bull standard, even by Christian Horner, and especially Dr. Helmut Marko standard, this is out of pocket. This is crazy, right? After just 2 Grand Prix to drop your driver, I wouldn't be at all surprised that this is more of a top-line decision made by those above Christian and above Helmut, with Honda obviously in their final year with Red Bull. Honda have already come out and kind of said that Yuki is essentially not on his own, but he kind of has to take control of the rest of his career. Obviously, Yuki has got his... Okay, this is true of any... 2 Grand Prix is not enough, especially when those 2 Grand Prix are in, you know, it's a sprint and chaotic conditions around tracks you've never raced before. And when the car is like the 4th quickest and even Max is really struggling with it, and like this Red Bull car is the weakest it's ever been in the ground effect era, arguably, like relative to the field, when was Max in the Red Bull and again, we're basing this off of Shanghai primarily, right? Where it was normal kind of dry conditions. Obviously, Australia, when the rain comes, that's when the driver can really make a difference. And we know how, Max is the best driver in the rain. No question. So this actual package feels like the weakest car relative to the field that Red Bull have given Max, arguably in his entire Red Bull career. Maybe. It's certainly one of the weakest, the car right now, okay? This isn't like it's Red Bull centric. Red Bull are interfering with my stream. Like this is definitely one of the weakest. So is the lag really that bad? I do not understand this, because it's literally fine on the replay, and it's fine on my end. Well, there's nothing I can do. I don't know. Like for them to package, and sure, Liam had an absolute stinker in the first two qualifying sessions, but I can see the chat absolutely going mad. I'm just going to carry on because I don't know what to do with these streams anymore. It's doing my head in. Like, I get it. Liam was last. Okay, I get it. He's qualified last twice. I understand that. Okay, but to ignore the context of the car that he's in, the challenge, because look, I said it in the video. I think we're about to see them swap places, and Yuki struggle at a very similar level to how Liam's been struggling. Maybe not qualifying last. Maybe he'll get through Q1. But do I think he'll be close to Max? Absolutely not. I want to do a little poll. Do a wee poll. How will Tsunoda perform in the Red Bull relative to Lawson? So obviously, I mean, not being funny, he can't do any worse. Okay, so the same, a little better, a decent amount better, or much better. There we go. Compared to what we've seen, the two races we've seen from Liam, this is what I mean. It just feels like such an unfair comparison to make. But what have we got we've only got two races to go on Liam, and they were like mad races where he started from the pit lane. He didn't even take a race start, because they mess around with the setup to try something different. I just feel like two Grand Prix, I will never ever, and you can clip this up and you can sear it into your minds. I will never endorse a driver getting dropped after two races. I don't care how bad the performances are. Two races is not a sample set. When Red Bull were the ones who chose Liam over Yuki in the first place, they said they saw more potential in Liam, so they didn't believe in Yuki, even though, Laurent Mekies and Yuki's side at Racing Bulls have been flying his flag and been propping him and being like, no, you know what, Tsunoda's improved, he's changed, he's moved forward, he's developed, he's grown. And that wasn't enough. They overlooked him for Liam, okay? And now you're pulling a 180 after two Grand Prix when you've not even actually, because this is the thing, right? Red Bull cannot afford to go into this next era with a car that is so difficult. Max is able to drive it because he's been at that team since 2016 and he likes a super sharp front end. But even Max is struggling with this car. This car is, without any shadow of doubt, the problem, okay? Because you look at all of the other teams, all 9 other teams, and drivers come in and out, blah, 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 and you're seeing representative levels from these talents coming in. Whether it's Hadjar, whether it's Behrman, whether it's Antonelli, the list goes on, right? That you can get close to your teammate, maybe not in every single session, and there'll be times you make mistakes, but like Red Bull need to the pragmatic decision for Red Bull is, right, who's going to be able to drive our 2026 car? Like, just get 25 done and over the line. Who's going to be able to drive from 26 onwards? Because no one apart from Max, there is not a single driver in the world, whether it's some 59-year-old bloke in, vintage GTs who just loves a really sharp front end, right? Because right now it doesn't matter, like, who can drive this car? The answer is no one apart from Max. No one apart from Max, with Max's inherent style and his 9 years experience of that team, is going to be able to jump into this car and be quick. I am absolutely certain of that. Even Daniel Ricciardo, right? Daniel Ricciardo, yes, he's the most recent driver, but he last drove that car in 2018. And as far as my best assessment and judgment is that Red Bull has only got sharper and trickier and moved. Again, it's this whole, like, is it designed for Max? I don't think it's designed for Max. The way Max drives and what Max can handle has allowed Red Bull to move the development and move it sharper and sharper and sharper. But it's come to a point where it's dropped off the cliff, and even Max can't drive it as well as he would want to. He's not as comfortable in that car as he has been for most of the Grand Effect era, because they've just moved it further and further in that direction, and that's made the job, I don't think it's a coincidence that Checo each season pretty much got worse than the one previous, right? Maybe not all in, I think probably 22 was maybe Checo's strongest season in Red Bull, but certainly 22 was better than 23 and 23 was better than 24. So I just... Red Bull they're entirely beholden to Max right now, because he's the only person who can get any performance out of the car that they've built, ultimately. And they need to make sure from 26 onwards, they have a more stable base package. And sure, you have a driver like a Max who can extract that bit more, but not have a car that's so undrivable when it's not in that tiny, tiny, tiny narrow operating window that Max can hang on. Max can balance on that knife edge, but you can't expect anyone else to come in and do that. This is what Red Bull need to do for 26. And almost the decision really needs to be, right, who is going to be, they just need to get through this season. 26, who is, and that can, I don't see how they can ever put Liam back in the Red Bull car now. That surely is now done. That's it. That Liam, this essentially, the whole point of this junior team is to get you to the Red Bull, the senior team. They've given him two races. 2 races is mad. That's so mad. That is so mad. Like, I can't believe they've given him 2 races. 2 races. He's not going to go back to Red Bull. Liam, essentially, he needs to just smash it in this race in Bulls, which I think he will do a good job, right? Maybe it will take a couple of weekends, because I can't imagine how he's feeling right now. I can't imagine all the questions he's going to get in Japan. Like, they need to protect him, because that is this is a lot, right? And it's I don't know. 2 races. 2 races is the new brown door. Exactly. I just it's baffling. So they must not see the potential in Liam to be this guy from 26 onwards, right? When this car will change because it's new regulations and it's going to have to change. Obviously, Newey is out the door, and Newey is the one who obviously has been developing the Red Bull for the longest time. I do wonder how the 2026 Red Bull is going to look, a non-Newey car, entirely, because of course this car right now, yes, Newey's already gone, but it's an evolution of, Newey's fundamental principles that he's delivered to a car. And maybe again maybe Red Bull's need to build something that is way more, has a way bigger operating window, a way bigger reasonable operating window, like the other 9 cars on the grid, because this is only a problem at Red Bull, then maybe that entices Max to move to Aston Martin, where Newey is now, even more, right? Because Newey knows how to make a car that Max can get on with and can operate on that knife edge. Since Newey's gone, it's kind of fallen off the edge of that knife edge a bit. And I do, Uden, I do think that they would have kept Liam if it wasn't for Japan being the next race. I think if Japan was round 4, I think they would have kept him in for Suzuka. Because again, Suzuka's a track that Liam knows, right? He's not known the previous 2 venues. Australia was a washout on Sunday. Shanghai was a sprint. You give him a full FP1, 2 and 3 at a track that he's comfortable in. He's raced at Super Formula. He's raced in F1. And he beat Yuki in 23, remember, around Suzuka. Yuki out-qualified him, but Liam got him at the start and they were side by side, wheel to wheel. Liam's wheel to wheel, I don't think anyone can question Liam's wheel to wheel combat is very, very good. And he beat Yuki that Grand Prix. And we're not even going to get to see Liam give it a go. Like, and again, to me, that is so early and that's so preemptive that it doesn't even shout to me that this was a Horner Marco decision necessarily. I think this is and again, the fact that, so I'm quickly showing you again, after a meeting between senior Red Bull figures in Dubai. So I feel like this is almost more like a board, and obviously Honda and Yuki's new management have obviously, propped up Yuki's performances because they have been fantastic, no question. I am terrified. I am terrified for Yuki. I'm not gonna lie, because and again, anyone who's been watching my stuff since 21 will know how much I've been propping Yuki Coin, right? Early investor right here, right? I'm so worried. I'm so worried that it's just going to be the same, because clearly that Racing Bulls, Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, whatever guys it in, does not adequately prepare its drivers for what Red Bull need. Okay, and this is why I said last year it was never about who deserved the seat, because just putting who deserves it in. And look, Yuki objectively was the one who deserved it the most from the first, right? I've never denied that. He's always been the one who deserved it the most, okay? But it's not about that, because I think we're about to see Yuki jump in, even though he's carrying great momentum and great confidence from that Racing Bulls car, and get into this really, really sharp, skittish Red Bull car and be like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And I mean, what you saying in the poll? What you saying in the poll? I really hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see this going any other way. If Pierre couldn't get on top of it, if Alex can get on top of it, if a driver the experience of Checo can get on top of it, and if Liam Lawson, I mean, he wasn't even given a chance to get on top of it. Let's be real. I don't see this being any different with Yuki. I really don't. How will Tsunoda perform in the Red Bull relative to Lawson? 3,000 of you have voted. Thank you very much for voting. 20% of you think the same, so no better. 49% of you, so half of you, think he'll perform a little bit better than Liam, which is probably where I would sit. Again, I think Yuki is obviously bringing confidence from having a very strong start to the season. Obviously, he's not had any practice run-in. He's not had any pre-season testing in the Red Bull. And he's had very, very little what he did the Abu Dhabi post-season test, didn't he? And that's pretty much the only time Yuki's ever driven the real Red Bull. 23% of you think a decent amount better. 7% of you think much, much better. It's... I'm fascinated to see how Red Bull, when the question's asked to Christian at the weekend, which will be the first question, no doubt, how they rationalise, how they justify dropping Lawson after 2 Grand Prix when you clearly have not got yet a representative view of how good he can be? Obviously not. Obviously not. So for them to make that decision and then go back on it so quickly, to me, screams again upper management pulling the plug and being like, we need to put Yuki in the car. We can't let this carry on, which is it's crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy to me. But look, I there's nothing I would love more than Yuki to jump into this Red Bull and put it in Q3, be a few tenths off Max. That would just be wonderful, right? Because he deserved the opportunity in the first place. He didn't get it. He's put the groundwork in at Racing Bulls. He merits the shot. He merits a chance to show what he can do. But Liam, there's no way Liam should have been dropped after 2 Grand Prix. That is barbaric. That is insane. Like, to me, it's you split the season in half. You give Liam 12, and if he continues honking, and it's been a horrific start to the season, but there's no one's doubting that, then you put Yuki in for the last 12 to wrap it up. But yeah, if it doesn't work with Tsunoda, what do they do? What next? Okay? What next? If Tsunoda doesn't work, genuinely, what do they do next if Tsunoda does not work in this car? That's what I think is going to happen. I've asked the question. If Yuki doesn't end up performing significantly better than Liam in Red Bull, what the F happens next? Paul Hakkinen out of his sabbatical, maybe? 6.2 thousand of you on Twitter seem to endorse that message. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Right, a bunch of you super chatted, very generous. Thank you very much. I'm just going to go through Clone Latifi. Do you reckon? Thank you, Mr. Hoppy, for the super chat. Between this and the Ricciardo debacle, Red Bull's management needs to take a look in the mirror. What a mess. Look, hindsight is a beautiful thing. I do think Ricciardo didn't do enough in the Racing Bulls V-Carb to merit the promotion, but I've said it a million times before, it's not about who deserves it, it's about who can drive that specific car with this specific nuanced style it needs. And Daniel was a strong candidate for that because of his past, because they didn't want him to leave in 2018. So clearly the performances Daniel was putting in were good enough. Christian was very, hurt when Daniel left for Renault. So that was always going to be an option that might have been hard to justify from some point of view, but actually, would Daniel have worked in this car? My guess is probably better than what we've seen from Liam and probably better than what we've seen from Tsunoda. Still not particularly close to Max, but probably somewhere between the gap that was like Max and Checo. I think Daniel would have done a better job than Checo, but not by a huge amount. Because again, fundamentally, this car, even Max isn't happy with this car. So it's just so, I cannot actually, my first video on this YouTube channel in 2019, when Albon replaced Gasly at Red Bull, and we're still here. We're still talking about this. Unbelievable. Ryan, I'm really sorry. Thank you for the super chat. I mean, restarting, unfortunately, isn't going to help. I think the lag sorted itself out now. But you might just have to watch back. Because on the... if you watch back the stream on YouTube, it's fine. When there's been lag in the past, it's never affected the stream after the fact. And it doesn't affect the recording either. So I really don't get what's going on. But thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I appreciate it. INF Leo, can he control that car? I hope so. I really hope so. But again, how Yuki's had no preseason testing in the Red Bull. He's like driven it once, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, that Silverstone, not Silverstone, sorry. Was it Silverstone or was it Abu Dhabi? I literally can't actually remember now, because I know there's the pictures of Yuki in the Red Bull. Actually, off the top of my head, I can't remember when it was. But I mean, it's minimal. It's very, 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 very minimal for what is a very, 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 very tricky car. I don't know. It just feels like a recipe for failure, if you ask me. Thank you for the super chat. I can't read your name because I cannot. That's the symbols. But thank you. I hear a lot of rumours that Franco Colapinto will go to get involved in this situation. Is it true? Well, do we know if it's true? No. Are there conversations going on? Of course. I mean, Colapinto's management will absolutely be knocking on that door, and we know that they were considering him before he started to get a bit crash happy last year. Franco kind of came out of nowhere, didn't he? That's what Christian was saying. No one was really looking at him. All of a sudden, he kind of made such an impression in those first 2 races, Franco, last year, that you couldn't not look at him. And as much as, I think Doohan is doing a good enough job to merit not getting dropped straight away and doing a better job than most of us expected. In terms of one lap pace in particular, he's pretty much there with Gasly already, which bodes very well. And again, you've got to remember, Doohan's had so much prep. He's had so much TPC running. So I'm not surprised Jack over a lap is up to speed. So yeah, if Colapinto can't find his way into Alpine, then, I mean, Alpine have got a bit of Mercado Libre money for sponsorship, and then he'll go to Red Bull, and then Mercado Libre will move to Racing Bulls. And probably replace Lawson, to be honest. I don't know. It just feels, the fact they've given him 2 Grand Prix and dropped him already, his chances of getting to that Red Bull senior seat just seem absolutely impossible now. So, but yeah, maybe Colapinto becomes a factor. Obviously, you've got Lindblad coming through, and we know Red Bull really believe in him. You've also got Hadjar, who's doing a very, very good job. So it's hard to, how do you fit all of these? Tsunoda, Max, Hadjar, Lindblad, Lawson, and Colapinto. Yeah, there's a lot of seats in that Red Bull stable, but it's still only 4, and that's more than 4 drivers. Woodo, thank you. How does Red Bull have any credibility after this? Why do they think throwing drivers at the problem will fix the issue? I mean, again, even Max is alluding to this, and in the reports that have come out, is what I've seen is that allegedly, I don't know if this is true, but like Max's team isn't particularly happy about Liam getting switched out, because I don't know if it's like, I don't know if they're looking for a scapegoat. Again, I'm not sure how Red Bull are going to frame this, how Christian's going to frame this. Are they looking to scapegoat Liam? I don't think so. I think they have to confess, they have to admit that, because we're not stupid, like, they've pulled him, he's not been performing, but the car is really difficult, and only Max, being the best driver in F1 and having been that team for 9 years, it is, and he's not even on the podium in China, right? So Red Bull have to take accountability here, 100%. They have to take accountability, because it's just so clear and obvious. It was never, ever, ever just the driver, ever. With Gasly, with Albon, with Perez, and now with Lawson. It's never just been the driver, because we've seen how good Gasly is, we've seen how good Albon is, and we've seen how good Liam's been. I mean, when he jumped in Zandvoort and replaced Ricciardo, drove an unbelievable race. Again, beat Yuki in Suzuka in 23. Like, Liam's a perfectly capable Formula 1 driver who can deliver fantastic results. Absolutely, of course he is. But it's never just been the driver. Sure, it's the driver's job to adapt to the car that's underneath them, absolutely. But when you're giving them such a nigh on impossible task, a task that Checo only got further away from Max over his stint at that team. Over 21, 2, 3, and 4. 4 years at that team, Checo had. And a proven experience coming into it, race winner in 2020, consistently performed at the ceiling of Force India and dragged that team forward. It was never just the driver. We kind of knew this already, but all this is just more evidence to back that point up. Of course, the driver has to take responsibility to an extent, but come on. Thank you, Stephen, for the super chat. Fun fact, Horner even admitted that the car got worse around Spain 23 when Checo got worse, but because Max kept driving so fast, they ignored it. Yeah, no, exactly. Remember, did my video last year when they didn't listen to Checo, basically. Which, look, again, as the strategy of, as long as Max is happy, he's so good, he's so quick, he's so complete, he will win drivers' titles, and he will essentially deliver us the constructors almost on its own. That worked for a long time for Red Bull. Whether you win the drivers or constructors championship by 1 point or 100 points, a win's a win, right? And Max was, essentially untouchable in the drivers' championship. Even last year, really, especially if he doesn't get that DNF in Australia when the car failed on him, it's not really, it was hyped up to be way more of a fight than it actually was. Come on, let's be real. So now it's like, it's not working. That strategy doesn't work anymore because everyone else is caught up, and Red Bull have continued to try to continue to add performance, but now it's falling off that knife edge, and that operating window, even for Max, is just, it's untenable. It's not consistently deliverable. So with 26 on the horizon, they're not going to throw excessive resource at trying to fix this car right now. It doesn't make sense for Red Bull. It doesn't make sense for a lot of teams, right, to try and fix their cars right now. Basically, if you've got a car that's fundamentally problematic, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think, ultimately, Perez went through the ringer, okay? And it was never all Perez. And it was the same with Albon, right? Same with my guy Albon, okay? He had a year, not so much the second half of 2019 was actually pretty good. But he had a year when he was getting dragged, and we're seeing Alex now show what he can actually do, and that he's not incompetent, and he is quick. But I think Red Bull just need to, they need to pick the driver who they anticipate is going to be able to drive their 26 car and not worry too much, because I do think Yuki's going to struggle at a pretty close level to how Liam struggled. But can they see a future with Yuki? Because Yuki has come on a lot. He has really developed, and he is a fantastic driver. And Red Bull are at risk of losing. They put a bloody first option on Albon for 26. They lost him, and they were like, oh, actually, maybe we want him back. And they're probably going to lose Yuki unless they buck their ideas up. It's just mad. It's just mad. Thank you, Salmon Cakes. Do Red Bull suddenly care about constructors now? No, this isn't a constructors decision. This is... I think this is a senior management, Honda, try something different. To not even give him more than 2 Grand Prix it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense from a trying to understand how good Liam can be in this car point of view. Constructors is gone. It's so long gone. It's going to be McLaren 1-2 for most of the season. George is consistently up there in the Mercedes as well. Constructors is a pipe dream. Just get the ATR. Just don't worry about the constructors, Red Bull. I don't think they are worried about the constructors. Just get the ATR for next year. They don't need the money. So it's just, I don't know. Thank you, Sava. Is Red Bull going to use all 4 drivers to develop their car? If people were not happy about Red Bull having 2 teams before, imagine now who else has access to 4 drivers and 4 seats like that. And look, the Racing Bulls is clearly, which is interesting, right? Because they've moved a lot of stuff from Faenza to Milton Keynes. It feels like they're gradually phasing out Faenza, which is a shame. Definitely a shame. And Racing Bulls take about as much as they can, I think, from Red Bull in terms of components. So, fundamentally, there's a lot of similarities between them 2 cars. But clearly, fundamentally, there's also a lot of differences between them 2 cars. And sure, the Red Bull racing car has a higher ceiling. No doubt. No question. But, achievable aerodynamics. This was like, remember when first ground effects came out and Mercedes were, zero pod in the data, in the wind tunnel, it's the quickest. But then you put it in the hands of the drivers and they're being, they're up and down like a yo-yo and they can't extract that performance in real life, right? Not just in a sim, but actually practical performance. Red Bull are in a position now where practically only Max operating in his prime, arguably one of the greatest of all time, can even make that car look respectable and get a P4 in China. I think that speaks volumes. He's been in there 9 seasons as well. Like, come on. If Max ain't getting this car on the podium, it must stink. It must absolutely stink. And again, look, they've rather than making the Racing Bulls car a driver's style evolution, like Racing Bulls does a better job preparing drivers for Ferrari or McLaren or Mercedes than it does for Red Bull. Which is crazy, but it's true. It's true. Every driver we've seen come out of that stable and jump into the Red Bull has struggled. And every driver we've seen jump out of that stable and into another team, Gasly, Albon, has flourished. Racing Bulls is a junior team for all the other 8 teams on the grid. That's actually how they've managed to make it work. It prepares drivers for other teams, but not for themselves. What are we doing here? Thank you, Racer. Danny Rick has always been the right guy. He moulded his whole driving style to the Red Bull and never really liked driving anything else since his 2013 Red Bull Racing test. He heavily impressed. I think Daniel's favourite Red Bull, is it the 2014? I remember seeing like a little interview with him and it was, what's your favourite F1 car that you've had? And I think it was 2014 or maybe 16. I can't remember. One of them two. Look, and again, regulations have changed massively since then, since 2018 even, when his last year at Red Bull. But fundamental principles, what worked for Max then in 2018 when he was outperforming Daniel. He definitely was the better driver of the two by the end of their time as teammates. That will carry on. Those fundamental principles, whether you've got ground effects where these cars have to stay as level to the ground as possible and flat, or the high rake, car that was previous to that. Those fundamental driving characteristics are going to essentially remain the same, which would have been so interesting. So interesting to see how Daniel would have done in that car. I'd be fascinated. You could play an alternative universe where they actually put him in and just see if he can, I guess, in part unlearn the changes he made to his style from McLaren, and hopefully in this alternative universe, Daniel would get back to a more natural style for him, which is closer to that sharp front end that Max likes. Cameron went to Renault because Red Bull explode. Renault. Well, I mean, it took a while for Red Bull. I mean, definitely Daniel would have been in a better place if he'd stayed at Red Bull. Certainly. I mean, no wonder Christian was upset. If Christian would have known that by Daniel leaving at the end of 2018, it would create a problem in that second seat for the next 5.5 years, he would have been even more upset about Daniel. He would have been even more upset. Because, I mean, obviously, Pierre was promoted probably, you say too soon, but Pierre done a season and a bit in Toro Rosso when he got promoted. And even then it felt like, you kind of rushed him in because Daniel's gone. You wanted to keep Pierre in that Toro Rosso and put Daniel and keep Daniel in the top seat. Crazy. Thank you, Ryan. It's all good now. Yuki flop incoming, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I really hope I'm wrong. Because I love Yuki, man. I love him to bits. He's such a lad. I'm so proud of his development. Genuinely, like I am. And to see him crash and burn in the Red Bull. But I do like to think, right, even if Yuki does not perform in this Red Bull, okay, and struggles a lot, that other teams, be that Cadillac, be that Aston, be that whoever else might be interested in him, would acknowledge that, yeah, he's been put in like an impossible situation, right? If Yuki honks, I think that most other teams, and I'm sure the majority of us as fans, would look at it and be like, yeah, but it's not really Yuki, is it? It's not his fault. He's already proven how good he is and how much he's developed and how well he started this season. So I'm not too worried, even if it doesn't go well for Yuki, that it's going to harpoon his career, but still not ideal. Stefan, thank you for being awesome. Appreciate it, Stefan. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Stephen, as well. Before 2024, where do you rank Horner in all-time GOAT team principles? Selling out for Honda money, Checo money, legacy ruined. Look, I think you can't. The team that Christian was able to put together, taking on, what was Jaguar before, bringing in Newey, bringing in Peter Prodromou at the start, who's now obviously at McLaren. You can't argue with the team that Christian's built and the consistency at which the Red Bull has been, a top competitive car. I mean, since when? Since 2009? It's been like a top car, maybe even earlier than that. As in, obviously, Vettel had a good run at the championship in 2009, but obviously Jenson got a great start. Look, Christian has, you look in its totality, where that team was and what it's achieved, like, that's undeniable. But this situation, it's certainly a stain. I think the Red Bull Junior Academy, I've kind of got, it has given so many young drivers an opportunity. And as much as it is cutthroat, without Red Bull and their investment in young drivers, a lot of these young drivers would not have got an opportunity elsewhere. Without Red Bull backing someone like an Alex Albon, he was in the Red Bull Junior Academy in the first place, then got dropped, then got picked back up. Like, there's a lot that goes into it's been messy. It's been successful, it's been messy. And right now, it's like really troubling the situation. So it definitely does stain it somewhat. But again, I think in the broader sense, it's still a very, very competitively impressive resume and team that he's been able to build. Thank you, Cram. What is the point of a second team to train drivers if the cars are so different? If the Red Bull racing car is pointy, the Racing Bull should be as well, even if it's slower. Yeah, I mean, look, that's... And I think, Cram, that was the... Where Red Bull have, gone between, it's a junior team, then it's a sister team, blah, blah, blah. I think they've struggled to have a consistent opinion on what the identity of that team is and what its job is, ultimately. Because they get plenty of marketing from, the Red Bull racing car winning Grand Prix. Now, they bought Minardi, and credit to Red Bull for buying Minardi, because that team probably would have just faded into, and everyone would have lost their jobs, right? So they kept that team afloat, kept it going. But then, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a conveyor belt to your team, or do you want it to be a conveyor belt to all the other teams, essentially? And that's kind of what it has become, because you've not been able to, again, adequately prepare your junior drivers in that team, whether it's Gasly with a year and a half, whether it's Albon with 6 months, whether it's Lawson with 11 Grand Prix over 2 seasons. It's not adequately preparing the drivers for the challenge of jumping in that Red Bull. It prepares them in many ways. Okay, it prepares them in terms of racecraft and just being part of the circus and getting up to speed and that. But it doesn't prepare them for the specific, those fundamental challenges which have been in that car clearly since 2019. Clearly, Daniel was the one who came into that team and usurped Seb, and then Max came in, and then things started to move in a direction. Daniel decided to leave, and maybe I don't know. Maybe part of it was Daniel felt like the team were moving the development of the car or the setup of the car in a direction that favoured Max's more pointy front end style. Maybe that was part of it for Daniel as well. He felt like that car was moving away from him and something he felt comfortable in driving. Maybe that was a factor in why he left. And then Pierre jumps in, and he's even further behind because he's got no experience. Like, Daniel's been there since 2014. So yeah, it is a crisis of identity for that second team. What do they want it to be? I don't think they know. I really don't. Thank you, Ryan. Thoughts on what happens if Yuki tanks the same as Liam? I don't see Red Bull having any options other than keeping him. No drivers left other than Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, in this situation, right? If Yuki does struggle, right? Red Bull have already made... I know I said this about Liam, so anything can happen. But with everything that's gone on, you drop Liam after 2 races, then Yuki comes in, who we know the season has started well, right? And then he struggles. There's no point then pulling Yuki out, because then it is absolutely, categorically, 100 billion% identifiable to every single human being or person of consciousness in this world that the car is the problem and not the driver. Right? We knew this already. We essentially knew this after Perez came in and started struggling. Really, Gasly was like, oh, maybe Gasly wasn't that guy and maybe he wasn't even that good. Obviously, we've seen it since, but I'm saying at the time in 2019, and then Albon again not proven, has been doing well relative to science now, but it's taken a long while for him to get this opportunity to prove himself. When Perez then came in from the outside and started really, really, really struggling, it was like, oh, okay, well, if a driver of his experience can't do it, and Gasly and Albon couldn't do it, and now Liam can't do it, and if Yuki can't do it, then bro, you can't just, that's not going to fix anything by just randomly changing the drivers. You need to change your philosophy for 26 onwards, and this 2025 car again is not going to fundamentally change, because they're not. Why would they throw resource at changing this car? They need to find the driver who, even if they can't drive this car, they can drive the 26 car onwards. That's what actually now is the important thing to consider. But you've not. This is what I don't get, because I think Yuki's going to struggle in this Red Bull. I do. That's what I think. That's what, if I had to put money on it, that's what I think will happen. I don't want it to happen, but that's what I think is going to happen. So if he does, you've not given Liam enough time to build up. You've only given him 2 weird weekend Grand Prix around tracks he's never raced, and Australia was a washout. So you can't compare them. You can't look at the data. If you give Yuki 22 races this year and Liam 2, how do they make a educated, informed decision on who to put in the car for 26? Unless it's neither of them, and they just put Lindblad in straight away, or just Hadjar. Why not? I just 2 Grand Prix is insane. Just makes no sense. It makes no sense to me at all. I do not get it. It must be from the top down. It must be above Christian Helmet. I don't see any other. Thank you, John. What's more shocking? Yuki to Red Bull or Trent to Real Madrid? The amount of... sorry, I don't get this, man. I've seen Liverpool fans burning Trent shirts. What are you doing? So just It's like when Declan Rice left West Ham. I was like, look, listen, we can't be that team for him, and fine, go and do your thing, go and win Premier Leagues. Hasn't happened. Go and win Champions League. Hasn't happened yet, but he's got a better chance at Arsenal. I'll be the first to admit that. So, like, good luck to him. I've got a lot of love for Declan Rice. You see West Ham fans getting all salty about it. Like, have a day off. Thank you, Puma. Yuki moving up seems like it is just putting more pressure on Liam to perform in the racing balls. I mean, look, the eyeballs this weekend are going to be more on Yuki than Liam, because it's going to be like, oh my God, how's Yuki going to do? I don't necessarily think Liam's going to have a great weekend in Japan, even though it's a track he knows. I'm glad he's got a bit of time, because I'm sure Liam, this is unofficially official, right? Everyone's reported on it. Liam must have been told. So he's got a bit of time to just kind of process it. I can't even imagine like how that conversation's gone and how that's all been. It's just absolutely ludicrous. I can't believe it. I'm like genuinely still like shocked about it. It's like when Lewis went to Ferrari. It's just like, it's a very, 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 very. It's just very. That's what it is. It's just very. But yeah, I think the eyeballs will be more on Yuki than Liam. I hope just Liam can and he's going to get an FP1, 2 and 3 in that Racing Bulls, and it's a good car. Hajar's driving well as well. I think, I believe that Liam will do all right. He might not, and I think I can understand if he might not. But again, it is Suzuka. It's a track he knows well. So, thank you, Racer, again. 23R Rebel Racing Test. Sorry, Rebel made the mistake of doing a V-carb shootout when in reality the Rebel is completely different. Exactly that. Your ability to drive the Racing Bulls does not correlate to your ability to drive the Red Bull. No car seems to correlate between that and driving the Red Bull, because no one can do it apart from Max. Danny Rick became a star in that car, and the 23 test showed he still has it. Yeah. I think in hindsight, probably Ricciardo was the correct choice, performance-wise, probably the correct choice. But that ship sailed now. There's no way he's coming back. He's fully enchanted. Thank you, Bray. I'm going to say Bray. Yuki did 127 laps on the Rebel RB20 at the end of... Yeah, it was the end of season Abu Dhabi test. Thank you, Bray. Rebel has Yuki's data versus Lawson and Perez. Lawson, Yuki were close. Yuki brings greater experience and seniority to cope with the Rebel 21, RB21 game on. And look, that's the thing, right? Lawson and Yuki were close in the RB20. Yeah, and they went with Lawson because he's less experienced, so more theoretical ceiling. And I've said this about Oscar Piastri, right? The reason I believe he's going to outscore Lando this year is because I think, even though Lando's been the stronger driver in the first 2 years, Oscar's so close already, and he's only in his third season, just starting his third season now. So I think there's more theoretical ceiling for him to grow into. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Lando. That's my opinion. We'll see if that comes true or not. And yeah, I think that's why Red Bull made that call. And that's why, last year, for me as well, like Lawson and Yuki, if they're really close in that car, then I think Lawson makes more sense to pick, because he's not got the experience of Yuki. So the idea is that, well, once he does get that experience, he'll be even quicker. That's the theory and how that goes, right? And we'll see if Yuki does any better job. Like, again, I hope he does. I don't think it will be much different. I really don't. But I would love to be wrong. I really want to be wrong on this one because I love Yuki. And yeah, maybe that experience and the fact that he knows his stock is really high right now, Yuki can take that confidence in and just, allow him to extract that little bit more lap time from the car. Because, again, the problem was that Liam was having to run a setup that made that car slow, essentially, because he was so nervous at the top of the Red Bull in its current guise. Jake, thank you for super chat. Should they have put Yuki/Daniel in after summer 24? I think there's always a question of like preparation. Like would put in Liam in for the second half of 24. I think Liam would have still struggled, so the scrutiny would have still been higher. Like there's not really a perfect way to do this, because that whoever you put in will be new to that car. So it's almost like, in some ways, if Red Bull have just which felt complete. That's the problem. It felt last year, it was so untenable at times. Like, so untenable to keep Checo, because his performances relative to Max were so bad. but like, nothing's changed. It's still untenable. Whoever's in that seat, seemingly. Crazy. Thank you, Eric, for the super chat, and thank you, Israel, for the super chat. Do you think Liam's statements fueled the change? I don't know. I don't think, as much as, you know, him being quite brash and ballsy with his statements, whether it's to Checo last year or, you know, about Liam, I think, and I mean, the ones relative to Yuki this year, like, I don't really, they asked him, like, how do you feel about Yuki basically taking your seat and being ready for your seat? Like, what's Liam going to say? Like, oh, yeah, he can have it. No, like, of course he's going to back himself. So I think people are reading a bit too much into that, if you ask me. But yeah, I think the way he, honestly, I think the way he carried himself, actually, I think Red Bull liked that. That was like that belief, that confidence, that almost like, you know, confidence bordering on like ego. That's not necessarily a trait that the team aren't going to like. And I think actually probably Christian did quite like that. I think he maybe responded quite well to that. But obviously what that did do is massively increase the scrutiny on him as soon as it started going wrong, which it did from day one. So I don't think Liam helped himself. And I think he'd say the same. Like, I think he regrets certain things he did last year, because that just piled the scrutiny on. Because the scrutiny has been, again, you're allowed to criticise drivers, but Jesus, some people have just lose all self-respect when they're anonymous on the internet. Thank you, Loki Scott. Will Liam go back to Red Bull Racing if Yuki does get? Yeah, it would be a swap. That's what's being that is what is being reported by, again, everyone. The Telegraph, Autosport, the race. It's being well documented, this. Nickname, thank you. Time to put Mick Schumacher in the Red Bull. At least he has nothing to lose and there would be no expectation on him. Yeah, it's just zero expectation. Felipe Drogovic. There's a lot of drivers who deserve a shot. Again, it's who can drive this car. Like Red Bull need to do an open day at Milton Keynes with the simulator on like maximum sensitivity, right? Max can set it up like, this is how I want to drive the car, and then just get loads of drivers, Pato O'Ward, Alex Palou, Felipe Drogovic, just everyone, just open invite, right? And just whoever goes quickest, boom, you're in. That's it. That's the solution. They've got the facility at Red Bull to do it. They've got all the simulators. You know? It's great. Thank you, Jim Kim. Starting to believe Toto when he said that he had Checo's statement printed out. The way Toto went about that was so funny, but actually he was spot on. Checo has said it. I've got it printed out. Oh, what an icon. Oh, love it. Thank you, Gabe. Who other than Eric Van Haren is being used as a reliable source? He has an agenda against Red Bull and is not to be trusted. Well, that kind of goes against what is said in this article. Reputed Dutch publication, De Telegraaf, which has close ties with the Verstappen camp and has always been a reliable source of Red Bull news. That kind of contradicts. But, I mean, look, maybe you got to remember, okay, there is the Verstappen camp and then there is Red Bull. And we know that these two sides don't always see eye to eye and don't necessarily get on. So you could be right. That's why it's, it's not technically official, but it's almost, the thing is, it wouldn't be, the race, all these other publications wouldn't be jumping on it unless they've been able to independently verify this information themselves with their own contacts. So I don't think if these other publications did, went to their own contacts and they were like, no, nothing's happening, I don't believe it would be getting covered in the same way as it is. And thank you, Mr. Hoppy. This is the last one. I'm going to wrap it up because this has been a much longer stream than I was expecting, but it's been good fun. It's good fun to jump on these big breaking news stories with you lot. So I do appreciate you all for coming. I really do. Make sure you drop a like on the stream as well. Don't forget. There's confidence and there's arrogance. And Liam Lawson has stepped very clearly into the latter. He needs to do his talking on track, which he isn't. Tsunoda taking his seat isn't surprising to me. I mean, is it not surprising? Surely it must be surprising for a driver to lose their seat after 2 races. Like, regardless, I don't care who it is, I don't care what team. For 2 races to lose your seat, that has to, come on, that surprises me a lot. And like that, regardless of how well Liam's driving or how much he's been cocky and arrogant and whatever, that is shocking to me, truly shocking. But look, we'll see how he bounces back at the Racing Bulls. I agree with Max. I think he'll be quicker in the Racing Bulls than he was in the Red Bull, and I think Yuki will probably be slower in the Red Bull than he was in the Racing Bulls. I just think that's the way it's going to go. But like I said, confidence, arrogance. One person's confidence is another person's arrogance. It's a fine line. And thank you, the Perfect something. Can't read your full name. Perfect Samurai, I think. I bet the rookie Fernando can handle that Red Bull. That is the only solution. Stick Fernando in. Get it done. Get it done. Right. I'm done. Thank you all for taking the time. Good luck, Yuki. You're going to need it. You really are going to need it, mate. But I've been so proud to see your development and how you've improved. Right? People calling for your heads in 21 when you were crashing all the time and blowing up on the radio, and he's really matured, really grown and developed into the driver he is today. I really hope it works for you, mate. And Liam, I mean, you're in the better car now. You're in the car you're going to be quicker in. So there's that, I suppose. And Red Bull, I'd like Red Bull to be honest with us about why this has happened and why you've dropped a driver after 2 Grand Prix. 2. Is that a representative sample size to actually make a proper knowing judgment? I don't think it is. Thank you, nickname. Reminds me of how Andrea and Moda handled their drivers, or Yuki Ide. Do you mean Yuji Ide? Yes. Yuji Ide returns. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I really do appreciate you all taking the time. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.